I'd like to call to order the regular meeting agenda on Monday, December 19th. And just a reminder, after we finish this, we will be going back to our work session. Is this same? Okay, thank you. So would you please join Councilmember Campbell in the Pledge of Allegiance and stay standing for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please bow your head in prayer. God of all creation, we thank you for this day and the many blessings we have received. We thank you for the people with whom we have been in contact with, our family, our friends, and strangers we meet every day. We thank you for the ability to use our minds to discern your will and work to create a strong and healthy community. We thank you for our community and all who serve it, for those who teach and for those who protect, our police, our fire, our military, who serve here in our city and abroad, for those who clean and those who repair, for those who work in our parks and those who work on our roads, for those who plan and for those who make our plans happen, for those who heal and for those who counsel, for those who govern and those who elect, for all who live into the best example of what it means to be a citizen. We thank you for our community. As this meeting begins this evening, I pray for each person here. Give each person clarity of mind, creativity, compassion, due diligence, integrity, and a sense of humor. Give them listening ears and thoughtful words. Give them presence of mind and an open heart. Be with all of us as we go through this Christmas season, never forgetting what the real reason of Christmas is. Amen.
Thank you, Councilman Campbell. That was very nice. All right, we have one. Oh, we don't have one missing. All right. Councilman Osborne has just joined us. So now I can honestly say we are all here this evening. So we'll go to the communication. We have one communication item tonight. The staff will introduce the council to a new city construction project's website and new informational signs that will accompany publicly visible city-initiated projects. Assistant City Engineer Keith Brown. Hi, Keith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the introduction. Keith Brown with the Engineering Department. And as you mentioned this evening, we're excited to present a new CIP project mapping tool that we will be launching to inform the public on city CIP projects that are soon or under construction. Soon to be under construction or are under construction. I need to apologize. Okay. This mapping tool will be located on the city's website under the engineering department page, which you see up there on the slide. It's common for residents to call about construction activity they see throughout the city. This mapping tool, along with some updated project signage, and
Could you pull that microphone just a little bit closer, please?
A little closer to me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this mapping tool, along with some updated project signage that you can see in the middle of the image up there, will help address many of the questions that we receive as calls come in regarding projects. When you open the mapping tool, you will see a user-friendly graphical interface that will display city CIP projects that are coming soon or are under construction. There are several different ways to search for a project by either using the map itself to locate a project, and they can click on that map, zoom into it, and if they know where a project is, they can just go to it on the dots. And there's also another, they can search by project name, a project type, and even by area of the city if they know the general area. So there's several ways that they can look for a project on there. After clicking on the project, it'll open up a page where you will see project information such as total cost, percentage completed, and estimated start and finish dates. You will also see a brief description of the project and the design or construction status. We have also provided contact information for the city's project manager so that citizens may have their questions answered directly. The website also identifies the latest public engagement, such as a public meeting, a council meeting, or that has either occurred or is going to occur. We have also provided, at the bottom of the page, there are pictures that will showcase the project and give citizens a glimpse of the project, construction, or other interesting details, especially for projects that are not easily visible from the roadway. It's a great way for the public to see and understand what the project entails. We also want to help the public easily identify a city project as opposed to just a private development type project. So for this reason, we worked with the communications team and developed a updated project signage that will be displayed at city projects. They are designed to be easily readable as a motorist is driving quickly past a construction site. It gives a quick tagline on what is occurring at the site and identifies a duration for the construction activity. This is an example of a sign you will see at city project sites. The sign also gives the resident information on where they can go to get additional information on the project via the project mapping tool that I just showed you. The new website and sign has been made possible by working with both the ITS department and the communications division. Our project managers are excited to utilize this tool to provide better communication with our residents on how we are making Goodyear a better place to live. The website will be launched later this week, and the project signs will be going up as new projects are initiated. And with that, I thank you for your time and would appreciate any.
Thank you, Keith. I'll ask the council if they have any comment. I'll just say I love that sign. So who would like to be first? Vice Mayor?
I really do like it because I know we get a lot of calls from people who, what's that project? And, you know, and they maybe not give the exact area, so we have to go find out where it is. So I think that's great. I do have two questions. How often is that going to be updated, like the percentage that it's complete? And is this also going to work as an app or just a website?
It will be updated monthly.
Mm-hmm.
So at least once a month, it will be updated. And it does work on mobile phones as well. We've tried it on the mobile phone, so it does. I don't know if it's necessarily an app, but it's
compatible.
I can pull it up on the phone and do the activities on it. I know that.
Okay.
I like your explanation. I would have said about the same thing. So. Councilman Pasillo.
Yeah, we have noticed that most people get our information from either our InFocus or our website, so I appreciate what you're doing to put this out there. The only thing I would suggest is if it's a new project that just started, I wouldn't wait the 30 days. I would just go ahead and put it out there so that it's there. I mean, if you're looking at routine updates, 30 days probably not bad, but if it's brand new, it'll probably eliminate some of the calls you may get on what's going on here. Is if it's new, to get it out on the website.
Certainly.
Thanks.
Councilman Campbell.
Well, I really would like to see that it get tagged on to our Goodyear app already, that there might be a link to it so that if we go to the Goodyear app, we can see this as well. I've seen this at NLC at the National League of Cities. There's millions of not millions, I shouldn't say that, excuse me. There's lots of cities all over America that do this, and it's wonderful because then the residents feel like they're a part of the project. They know what's going on. They're not the last to know. I know that most lay people who drive by a project, they have no clue what the name of the project is. So I appreciate that we can just hunt for it by the location because we can at least click on it, but we're not going to know what the project is called, and we're not going to know what type of project it is really. when you stop and look at some of the things they do, you have no clue that they're laying just some fiber optic cable. You think they're building a new intersection or something. So thank you. I think this is wonderful, and it's a great way to bring our residents up to date on what the city is doing. Then they'll know how busy we really are and how we are improving the community.
Councilman Stipp.
Keith, is this just for? Councilmember Campbell just brought up a good point. You know, we do a fiber optic line. That's a couple of days. You're not going to go out and post a sign for a 2-day project at the intersection of Bullard and McDowell, because they're drawing a fiber optic tube through there, are you?
Yeah, we wouldn't do a project signage for something of that nature.
So even though that's funded by CIP, so this is truly roadway projects, sewer projects, water projects.
Significant projects where traffic's going to be impacted for a period of time. Projects where they'll drive by and see day to day.
Would the installation of a traffic signal meet this standard?
It could, yes. It could.
So I think it's awesome. You know, I absolutely agree with Councilmember Campbell. And I guess the reason for, you know, those are the questions that come very frequently. What are we doing there? What are we doing here? And is this project living in engineering, or is this a communications project? Because if this is living in engineering, no offense, but I don't think you're not the right guys to do this. I want you engineering. That's what I want you guys doing. I want the communications people communicating. So is this an engineering project, or is this a
Do you mean engineering can't take a hammer?
The website.
ITS built the mapping for us. They did a wonderful job. I was very impressed.
Oh, it is.
How they did that. Communications has helped
Create it.
provide the presence and the signage. So engineering is managing it. As far as updating it, we will be updating it regularly. The project managers will be directly updating it themselves. In that sense, yes, it's an engineering. It's going to reside in engineering, and we will keep it up to date. As we need improvements, as we need something changed, certainly communications, IT will be the ones that are involved to assist in that.
Okay, so I guess my only concern at that point then is if it's not a project that meets your guys' criteria, I hope that our communications department is forward thinking and getting these little things out and all the other tools, because as Councilmember Pizzillo said, we have zero media coverage. So the only way people find out what's happening in the city is our website or what we send out.
And are we in focus?
Yeah. So if we're not proactive in getting that information out, we're not getting it out. And again, I'd rather have the engineering department doing what they do best, and that's engineering projects and managing projects, and let this communication go to the people that do that. So I hope that through the course of this, that the manager and the staff can figure out how to get the engineers out of becoming PR people. Otherwise, anybody can put a tie on and get a pocket protector, right? Thanks, Keith.
I just have to say, I have all the confidence in the world if an engineer has to go out and put that sign up. So I think we're going to leave it up to you to determine what program you want. But before I turn it over to Councilman Osborne, I just want you to say about that sign, which we didn't. You have thank you for your patience. So I just want to throw that out to the public, because when you see that sign, it's going to take some time, right? It's not just overnight. So when you see it, citizens, that's the time you sit back, take a deep breath, and it will eventually be all finished at one time or another. Councilman Osborne.
Thank you. So just one step further on the question of being housed with engineering, okay? I would like, whether it's you or communications, to be watching the hits on this, because websites have to be user-friendly. And if the average citizen wants to know something and doesn't know this is housed in engineering, they're going to be looking for some kind of icon that is new projects or street construction, something that, says this is what you want to hit on. What I see right here is that it's housed, you have to know to go to engineering to look for this. Am I correct? Or is it somewhere else that's going to be visible to
We
the
got someone that's going
public.
to answer that question.
Yeah.
Come on up.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Shireen Zay, Communications Manager. Actually, we created a friendly URL, so the URL that we will be promoting, and we wanted to bring it to you before we went ahead and promoted and went live. So we will be sending e-blasts. We will be putting out on social media. We will include it in the InFocus. Our friendly URL is .gov/projects. So they don't have to figure out they have to go to engineering. They just go to projects, and that'll land directly on that page with the map and the options.
Okay, that's good, because if I had to know better as a citizen to go to engineering, I wouldn't be thinking street projects. I wouldn't, and we get hit with the questions of what's that white building, and that has nothing to do with the city per se, but it's a project people are asking about. So I appreciate that, and that's why I was going to say watch the numbers of hits if people can't figure out to go to that section. Okay,
We will. We'll keep a tab on it, and definitely that was one of the items that we considered strongly is how do we make this as easy as possible for people to get to? And we just thought if we put projects on there, they can put that up. It's shorter also on the signage. It's something more simple for them to remember.
and the signs, they look very vivid, and I do appreciate that.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now is the time for citizens who would like to address the City Council on a non-agenda item. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Does anyone in the audience like to speak? All right, well, let's just go on with the program. And so, will the city clerk please read consent agenda items from 6.1 to 6.6 by title only, please?
Item 6.1, approve the November 2016 budget transfers. Item 6.2, rescind the July 9, 2007 approval of the Sadea Parcel 3B final plat in its entirety and approve the final plat for Sadea Parcel 3B.2, subdividing 30.58 acres into 87 single-family lots in 2 tracts, generally located at the southeast corner of Perryville Road and Camelback Road within the Sadea planned area development, subject to stipulations. Item 6.3, approve the final plat for La Ventia Phase 3, subject to stipulations. Item 6.4, approve the final plat for Estrella Parcel 3.14, subject to stipulations. Item 6.5, approve the map of dedication for Sadea Phase 3, Camelback Road, North Perryville Road to North Sadea Parkway, subject to stipulations. Item 6.6, adopt resolution number 16-1774, replacing resolution number 83-211, prescribing standards of financial disclosure for local elected officials. And that's it.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to remove an item from this consent agenda? Does anyone on the council wish to remove an item? Yes, Councilman Stipp. Just a question or removal?
I've got questions on 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4.
So do you want a presentation or can we just go with that? All right, let's start out with 6.1 then. And that's the November 2016 budget transfers?
No, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4.
Okay, 6.2, 6.3. All right, let's do 6.2, the Sadella.
They're all the same. Staff knows it's coming. Yeah. So based on our conversations last week, obviously, I did not have any expectation that the information would be provided in reports that were written a few weeks ago. So I asked for the information that we discussed last week at the fire station study to have the geographic distance from the nearest fire station and the response time modeling done for each of the final plats that we're looking at tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Stipp. And if I could have the Elmo screen. I hope we got what we're looking for.
I think you can back it off just a little bit. Blurry, isn't it? There it is. Thank you.
So for item number 6.2 is Sadea 3B2. So it's the second one in this chart here. The nearest fire station, and hopefully you can see this, is right here, which is actually outside of the Goodyear city limits. And you can see the shortest path would be about 2.96 minutes, a little less than a mile. The longest path is 3.76 minutes away, 1.38 miles. Then the secondary fire station to respond is the Pebble Creek Fire Station right here, and that is 10.41 minutes away or 4.7 miles. And then the longest path would be 11.2 minutes away or about 5 miles. So moving on to item 6.3, the La Ventia Phase 3, which is the third item here on this chart. So that's located about right here. First, it would be responded to by Fire Station 184 on Yuma and Saraville, and that is approximately 4.89 minutes to the shortest path, or 1.94 miles. The furthest point in the subdivision away would be 5.22 minutes, or 2.11 miles away. The secondary station to respond is the Pebble Creek Station, 185, which is 6.8 minutes away, or 2.9 to the shortest distance of the community, and the longest would be 7.14 minutes away, or about 3 miles away. And finally, Estrella 3.14, which is located about right here, would first be served by the Estrella Fire Station 182, which is about 2.35 minutes, or 0.67 miles. And the longest path is 2.76 minutes, or 0.88 miles. And then the secondary response would be the Buckeye Valley Station, which is 11.27 minutes, or 5.13 miles, or the longest portion is 11.66 minutes, or 5.33 miles.
Are you fine with that?
I'm not fine with it.
Well,
but
I
thank
know
you for
you're
the
fine with it,
information.
but she showed you what
Yes, she
you
answered my
actually
question.
did what
and
we asked her to do.
I
All right,
appreciate that. What I
all
would
right.
like to ask, to request, though, is that we not use other fire departments' fire stations as our benchmark. That Station 321 in Buckeye Valley to serve Sadea is probably questionable how much longer it will remain open, at least in its current location. And we shouldn't be using temporary facilities such as 321 to justify our response numbers. And if you look at that, if that station closes, the next nearest fire station is almost 11 minutes away.
I don't disagree with your concern, but I do disagree that we wouldn't put it down. You can put it down with the caveat that this is the circumstances of it.
Sure.
But I do think we have to have the name there. And then there's no use telling you it's going to close if it hasn't closed. So you need to, it works both ways. It makes people more aware, okay, at the distance. So it does tell a story. Kind of agreement with that one? Okay. Is that enough, Bill?
Yep.
Okay, then could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second. I heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Councilman Holman. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Loretano? Aye. Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Homan?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Yeah, let's go to the business item. And again, Council, we just refrain from asking questions until the presentations are complete and there's a motion on the table. So 7.1 is an item to consider the options for La Jolla Vista pedestrian walkway. Developer Services Director Christopher Baker to present.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you tonight and speak with you regarding the La Jolla Vista pedestrian connection item. As you're aware, this item has previously been discussed by Council at the November meeting when you all considered the PAD revision for La Jolla Vista. At that November Council meeting, there were 3 Council members who signed a statement asking for this item to be reconsidered, so that's why it's on the agenda for tonight, so staff can seek your direction tonight and act in accordance with your vote this evening. So tonight, I'm going to touch on briefly 5 different elements. The first is provide some background for you, review the options, outline for the process that would be required for any revisions to the PAD and the development agreement, provide you some estimated staff times and some estimated soft and hard costs associated with the revision effort, and provide a staff recommendation. So if you all remember, the La Jolla Vista property is in West Goodyear. This is Sin Lomas, a residential community, and Citrus is on the immediate west boundary of the property. The darkened black line is West Durango Street, and north of West Durango Street is property that's located in the county. That is the existing Sweetwater Estates neighborhood. La Jolla Vista is obviously in the city, and it is zoned PAD. La Jolla Vista has, as a result of the previous agreements and the PAD zoning, both a school site located in blue and a park site located in yellow. And the property the element that we're discussing tonight is located within this green area. There's a sidewalk connection and an opening in the subdivision perimeter wall to Durango Street. As a result of the concern from Sweetwater Estates many years ago, let me back up 1 second. The original the original La Jolla Vista plan had a street connection to Durango, approximately in this location. As a result of concern and input from the Sweetwater Estates residents, the compromise was achieved of have a break in the subdivision perimeter wall and have a pedestrian connection at that point. Those stipulations were included in the PAD zoning ordinance from 2005 and 2006, and it was also referenced in the development agreement in various places as well. As you're aware, the Sweetwater Estates residents came to the November City Council meeting and also attended the October Planning Commission meeting and spoke in opposition to the most recent PAD amendment, not in terms of revising the lot sizes for parcels 4 here and 6 here, but in an effort to bring the attention to Council's consideration for deleting the stipulation of the sidewalk connection. Back in 2005 and 2006, when the original compromise was reached to delete the street section here and have it as a pedestrian connection, Avondale School District supported the connection, the sidewalk connection, because if this was closed off and there were no pedestrian activity allowed in the south or north direction, the interior connection to the proposed school site here, the children actually have to walk down Durango Street, down Citrus, and all the way through La Jolla Vista to get to the school site. There is no connection. There is a boundary perimeter wall here on the eastern side of Durango Street and the western side of Sin Lomas. So the Avondale School District's concern at that point in time was that distance that children would have to walk could trigger the need for additional bus service, therefore increasing their transportation costs. In addition, the City of Goodyear's general plan that was ratified about 2 years ago actively promotes pedestrian connectivity, and I won't get into the specifics that were listed in your staff report, but for the benefit of the public and others, Chapter 6 indicates that development should link neighborhoods through public parks, paths, trails, and open space. Chapter 8 references pedestrian and bicycle connections shall be made between and within developments to allow walking and biking to destinations. General Plans Standard 3.1 indicates that pedestrian and bicycle connections shall provide internal and external links to parks and schools. And General Plans Standard 3.2 indicates that subdivision perimeter walls should have appropriate openings for pedestrian connectivity. So at this point, I'd like to transition and talk about the options that's before you tonight. Staff identified 3 particular options for your consideration and direction tonight. The first option was simply to keep the existing stipulation in the development agreement intact, however, revise it to require that, or essentially require that the perimeter wall be solid along Durango Street right here. So the sidewalk would be constructed in the green area, allowing the residents additional linear footage of trails and green space and active area, however, not allowing pedestrian connection all the way through to Sweetwater Estates. So that's option 1. Option 2 would delete any and all references to the pedestrian opening in the perimeter wall and the sidewalk out of the PAD and also the development agreement, and that would result in a solid perimeter wall being built along the entire southern border of Durango Street and no pedestrian access north or south. The third option would be to take no action which would result in the sidewalk being constructed and the pedestrian opening in the perimeter wall being constructed as well. So at this point, I'd like to transition just to briefly talk about the process, if I can, for a moment. Should council direct staff to proceed with either option 1 or option 2, the process would be a public process, which means that it would go through these identified 24 steps in order to arrive back at you for your final vote in approximately 3 to 4 months. I won't read them, but just as a synopsis, we'd have to enter into some negotiations with the property owner in order to reevaluate the development agreement. We'd have to go through a citizen review process. It would be public hearing, obviously, at the Planning Commission and at the City Council level. And you would also vote on both the zoning change to the PAD and a revised development agreement as well. As far as an estimate of time and costs, the estimated revisions to both the zoning and the and the development agreement would be about 3 to 4 months, as I indicated just a moment ago. We also estimated staff time for the zoning aspect of this revision to total approximately 95 hours, and staff time to revise the development agreement approximately 80 hours. Thus, the combined total of staff effort would be approximately 175 hours, and a soft and hard cost meaning property postings and mailings and notices and things of that nature, a combined total cost of $10,675. So that leads me to the staff recommendation. Due to the soft and hard costs that total $10,675, due to the opportunity costs of devoting 175 hours of staff time to this matter, and due to the fact that the general plan supports, encourages, and requires pedestrian connectivity, the staff recommendation is option 3. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions for you.
Thank you. I have speaker cards here tonight, so I'm going to start out before I call your names. I want you to know each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The yellow light and the buzzer will let you know you have 30 seconds left to speak. Before you begin to speak, identify yourself by clearly stating for the records your name and address. So I'm going to call the first person out, Christian Vatia David. Is it Christian your last name? Is that backwards? So what's your first name?
Christian.
Oh, thank you.
How you doing tonight? So the first thing I'd like to bring up is
address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. 1718 South 177th Avenue, Goodyear, Arizona 85338.
And you live in La Jolla Vista?
Yes, I live just outside of it and off of Durango Street.
Okay. I'm going to ask people where they live, okay, when they come up to speak, so that the council has an idea. All right? Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just have a question. Are kids allowed to even go to that school if you guys put that pathway through there at all? Or is that completely just for that development and everything like that? And also, too, I'd like to bring up the fact that there was burrowing owls over there, and I don't know when you guys are going to start building and everything, but they're protected by the Migratory Bird Act. They're not endangered, but you guys can't even start building or doing anything for those anyways. And like I said, I'd like to know about the whole school situation, because honestly, there's no reason for anybody to even come through there at all. If already went right when those houses just to the right on the image have already been built. One of our neighbors was broken into, and he caught the person hopping over the wall with a wheelbarrow full of stuff. Not saying it's going to happen, but it can. And another neighbor, he's not here tonight, has mules. He's had a 5-6-year-old girl standing inside his pen going, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I just came here to pet him." Well, they didn't know. They came from that community, and we don't want to have problems because no matter what, it's our insurance and our responsibility for those people coming on. And you can hear my neighbors across the street at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and what happens if someone starts walking down the street on their cell phone, 11:30, 12, all the dogs in the neighborhood are going to bark, and if you think anybody's going to stand there and say nothing, it's just kind of silly to even have a pathway in there at all, you know what I mean? There's no reason. Yeah, they got to walk, but I'm not making money off of it. That's their problem to figure that out. And another thing, too, on the whole backside of Durango, see if you guys can actually have just 1-story houses instead of 2, so don't have all the neighbors that are retired and have their kids and all nice toys and stuff, have everybody looking in from the backside of their whole entire property, if you know what I mean. But for me to have the access through there, it makes no sense for me at all. I mean, if to the west, to the south, I mean, there's all that room. They have all that place they can go. I run through that field every night, so I know for a fact they got all that open space. But for them to come through there, that's just a sorry excuse. You know what I mean?
Thank you very much. Did everybody get the different concerns he had? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Christopher, do you want to address some of those? Is that what you're going to do?
Yes, ma'am. I was just going to clarify the school statement. That is an Avondale School District site. It's a public school, and it's proposed to be an elementary school, just for council's consideration.
Did Mr. Christian understand that? Did you hear what he said about the schools? All right. Thank you very much. All right. The next one is James Bone.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is James Boehm, B as in boy, O-E-H-M. I live at 1726 South 176th Avenue. We moved there in that area because of irrigation, plus we can have animals, horses, cows, sheep, goats, chickens, whatever. That's why we moved there. We don't want to be bothered with anybody else walking down our streets. We have enough problem with up here, this area here. There's 2 irrigation runoffs going underneath the fence, and they're about this wide each. There's 4 of them, and they're this high. Kids are getting underneath it from that subdivision into our subdivision. They're putting graffiti on the wall. The graffiti was brought up to the city of Goodyear, and they said, well, we can't do nothing about it. It's on the west side of the wall. We don't want these kids in our neighborhood. That 5-year-old girl, they get underneath this walkway, this block wall. We need to have a steel, concrete steel bar affixed so that these kids can't get underneath and put graffiti on our side of the wall. The same thing is going to happen when this goes in up there. The kids can get on that side and can do whatever they want to do to our side. City of Goodyear says, can't do nothing. It's on the north side of the wall. You know, I wrote this down, and the first thing I said, Goodyear doesn't care about us. And that's what I'm hearing with that last statement 3, do nothing about this. You know, they might have approved this thing 15 years ago or 10 years ago. But we moved in there. I moved in there 12 years ago. I knew that something was going to go on out there. And I didn't know all this stuff was already prearranged in the street that was supposed to go in there, you know. And now they deleted that and just want to put a walkway. We don't want the walkway. We do not want the people in the subdivision to come into our subdivision. We like the way we live. I know just about all of the people in my subdivision. I talk to them, I say hi. My wife is a pastor at the church on Durango between Yuma and Van Buren.
Thank you, sir. You're going to have to wrap it up now.
Well, God bless you and your council.
Thank you.
And I hope you really, really go in our favor.
Thank you, sir.
Because we need it.
And so you're in the Sweetwater community, is that correct?
Right, the Sweetwater
Thank you very
community.
much.
I'm sorry.
All right. The next one is Taylor Earl.
Good evening. My name is Taylor Earl. For your record, our address is 3101 North Central Avenue in Phoenix, Suite 1000. I am here on behalf of, our firm represents the property owner of La Jolla Vista. We sent in a letter to council stating the position of the property owner. So I'm here to sort of answer any questions, really summarize that position. I won't reread really the entirety of it, but if I could just read into the record a couple of the paragraphs. This pedestrian access that we're talking about was to allow convenient pedestrian ingress-egress between the projects, and especially for residents of Sweetwater Estates to reach the proposed new elementary school and public park in La Jolla Vista. Originally, a street connection to Durango Road had been proposed, but that was deleted at the request of the Sweetwater Estates owners, and the pedestrian access was the replacement. Although this access was not requested by the owners of La Jolla Vista, we now have a final approved PAD and a final plat of the properties in question, which reflects this access as stipulated. Engineering plans have also been submitted and approved by the City for La Jolla Vista, consistent with the approved zoning and final plat. This is the position of the La Jolla Vista owners as to this pedestrian access. They do not oppose the removal of the pedestrian access in stipulation number 35 if that is the desire of the City Council. But we want to state clearly that this request would be initiated by the city and not by the owners. Moreover, if the City Council decides to initiate a request to amend stipulation number 35, the owners do not want the approved PAD and the related final plats and engineering plans to be opened up for any other amendments. These existing approvals should remain in place and not be affected by any case to remove stipulation number 35 at the associated pedestrian access. Thus, if the City Council were to decide to initiate a city-sponsored PAD amendment to modify or delete stipulation 35 in ordinance number 2005-971, that case should be restricted to consideration of only stipulation 35. And it is our understanding that if the pedestrian access requirement were removed, a wrought iron fence or block wall at all open space connection locations to Durango from La Jolla Vista would simply be continuous without a pedestrian pathway and gate. So the bottom line is that we're okay with the removal of that stipulation. It's not something that we originally asked for. It was placed on the case. But now that we've gone through, we have our approved PAD, we have our final plats approved, and the engineering plans approved. Our concern is that opens it up. All of a sudden, we have to come back through public approvals. It puts a lot of cost into the engineering. And so to the extent that that were ever done, we would say that we would prefer the option that does the least damage to our approvals as possible. And if a slip sheet can be done on the plat to remove it, then that's something that we would, if it can be done administratively. But that's really our bottom line, is that we don't want it to affect all the investment that we've put in up to this point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next person is Kimberly Brentmeyer.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Kimberly Brentmeyer. I live in Sweetwater Estates at 1802 South 177 Avenue. It's been said that tall fences make good neighbors. We want to be good neighbors, but we don't want the encroachment of a new neighborhood into our community. We prefer to preserve our way of life, which is definitely going to be different than the way of life of a new community coming in. We aren't able to afford the liabilities that we'd be responsible for the pedestrians coming into our community. We don't have sidewalks. We don't have lighting. We have open irrigation ditches. There's just opportunity for accidents to happen, and we just can't be responsible for additional pedestrian traffic in our area. As far as the school access, by the number of people from our community that have stated that they don't want the access, I don't know that there are that many school children that would be utilizing that. As well as in our community, we're used to walking a distance, so the little extra way that they would have to walk to school, I don't believe would be an imposition to any kids who would choose to do so. I haven't heard from any representatives from the school district to know that that was the original intent, was for the students to walk through that pathway. I just don't feel that we need to have an invitation into our community for the new neighbors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. All right, the next one, I really, it's hard to read it. I don't know if it's Joel Supley. If it's close, just thank you. It was close enough.
Joel Supley, 1817 South 177th Avenue, Goodyear, Arizona, Sweetwater Estates. I'm trying to figure out why we're still here debating this. It amazes me that we've gone through about 3 or 4 of these meetings now, and we're still talking about the same darn thing. I wasn't there when all this happened. I've only been in that community 2 years. A lot of these people know me, some don't. But it amazes me we're still here talking about it today, tomorrow probably. Sounds like 3 or 4 months from now. It's ridiculous. It needs to be taken care of tonight. The financial liability that's going to be put upon myself, my neighbors, and I'm going to tell you right now, this city and that damn developer is going to be tremendous. If something happens to my property or anybody else's property, I'm coming back to you guys and that darn developer. Closing that access will save everybody a tremendous amount of pain, a lot of money, and it needs to be taken care of now. Thank you.
I went through the cards. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak that didn't fill out a card? We have someone coming forward.
Good evening. My name is Ken Bradley, 1901 South 177th Avenue. My house is right there. The opening is going to be right across from my house. 10 years ago, when this decision was made to have that opening, our development at the time was concerned with this new development right here. Okay? We have no openings in the walls, except for what the kids are doing, digging underneath it or whatnot. They have no access from this community to this school system over here. Okay, there's solid walls all the way through here. Maybe they can walk around here or there. That's not really our issue. When you live in the Beltway in Washington, D.C., don't tell me how fast to drive my car in Montana. It may be safe to drive 55 in D.C., but we drive 85 in Montana. I think the city has a grand plan, and I think they have good intentions, but they made a mistake. Okay, so it's going to cost 10 or 20 grand to fix that mistake. If I were a new buyer coming in, and I bought a house right in here someplace, I don't want access to this crappy community. They got horses and mules running around. They got dogs barking. I would end up buying a house on this part over here to stay away from that access point. So the city is actually telling future homeowners what's better for them. And they're telling us, now we're county. We're not city, we're county. So now they're telling us that my kids have to have access to walk through to the school over here. My kids don't go to school over here. They go to Verrado. They go someplace else. They go down the road. So I think the planning committee is a little off base. And I'm sorry it's going to cost money to fix it, but you don't want to have a bunch of irritated people out here. And you can tell we're irritated. So why don't we just say, hey, we made a mistake. The developer, he just wants to build homes. He doesn't care. You just heard the attorney say that, you know. They don't want to open up a can of worms that we change one thing, we're going to change 500 other things on the PAD. That would mess with them. We realize that. But let's just fix the problem and get on with it. Put a solid wall across there, and we're done with it at this point. Otherwise, here we go. Like Joel said, here we go more and more and more and more. So that's essentially all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
And who wants the card?
That's right over here. Anyone else in the audience that wanted to come forward? All right, so we can discuss this, Council. Could I have a motion, a second, for one of the options presented? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
Hi, my name is Frances Gonzalez. I live at 1902 South 175th Drive in Goodyear, in the Sweetwater Estate. My concern about that opening, it's going to cost money to close it, but let's face it, the kids nowadays do not have respect, especially for us who are older. They're rude. They come over from the development that is to our east. They go under the thing, I live right on Durango. I mean, I'm going to be about, I'm going to say about right here. And they mess with my dogs. They throw things over the fence. They take things that aren't theirs. And it's not comfortable. It's not safe. When you hear noises and you know that the cars are coming through there because they don't want to go around. Now, a walkway, kids are just going to be coming, petting the animals, messing with whatever. We have one kid who was riding, I guess, a motocross bike, went in the little ditch that we have. Had my husband not been out there, he would have drowned. Where did he come from? The other development, riding around. They come through our neighborhood because they can't ride their quads or whatever in their neighborhood because, well, they're a development, but we're open range. Now you give them access this way, they're just going to come up the road and start going through ours because we're county. So for us, I know it's going to cost, but really, we have been there first. And we know that growth has to take place. But why does it have to come to us? If we all paid, and let's face it, we paid it for an acre so we didn't have to have a neighbor. Now we're going to be forced to have somebody that's right here who can actually look over in our properties, take what they want, do what they want when we're not there. You know, yeah, we rely on our neighbors. We talk to our neighbors and we make sure that they know we're not going to be there, or we tell our families and kids. But now we're going to have a whole development plus this development, and we're going to be closed in, but they're going to have access to just go in and out and nobody hear anything. You know, it's just one of those things that we're hoping you guys have, I guess, the empathy to say these people need their privacy.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else? Last call for somebody that wants to come to speak on this subject matter. All right. We have a question from Councilman Stipp before I make a motion. So,
The mayor was asking for a motion, so I was looking at the options because that's clearly one of our. I don't really understand the difference between option 1 and option 2.
but can't we discuss that when we
Well,
make
I can't
the
make a motion to adopt option
Oh,
1 or
I would-
adopt option
because
2 if I don't know the difference between
Yeah,
the
that's
two of
true,
them.
because I just want a conversation.
Yeah.
We really are. We really should be able to discuss all three of them. I don't know how we do that, so.
Well, we'll make a motion on one of them, but I want to know
Yeah,
which one
okay.
is right.
Madam Mayor, in the past, we've had multiple options. You have had some discussion prior to settling on where you want to make the
Okay,
motion.
all
So
right.
that may be
All
an
right,
option
thank you.
for you this evening.
Okay, we're going to do that right now then. Go ahead, Bill, ask your question.
Okay, so tell me what the difference between option 1 and option 2 is, because they both, neither one of them allow the perimeter, the pass through.
Mayor, Councilman Stipp, that's correct. The difference is that I should have brought my sheet up. They're both the same, meaning that the perimeter wall along the opening right here would be deleted. One of them would require the sidewalk within this dedicated green space, open space area, and it would simply terminate at the wall, if that makes sense. So these residents, if you lived in this home here, you could go down this way, go this way, get to the park and school. So the sidewalk would be constructed, but the opening to Sweetwater Estates would be closed.
Which option is that? You just spoken?
Well,
Yeah, you need to.
sounds like 1 and 2.
I think we're a little confused.
Well, excuse me 1 second.
All right, take your time.
This is going to be a wall, and they don't want this open. And it's a dead end like on 161 Ave. That's a street, Durango Street. So they must live all off of Durango Street. And these are each street.
So, Mayor, Council, option 1 would retain the sidewalk in the green space area, but have there would be no opening along Durango Street.
Okay.
Option 2 would delete all references in both the zoning and development agreement to both the sidewalk and the opening in the perimeter wall, so the sidewalk would not be built at all. It would just be an open buffer area, a green space open buffer area with no sidewalk in it.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm having trouble
Vice Mayor?
So help me. So if the sidewalk were to terminate, there's like a cross part there. Is that another sidewalk? I don't have a look.
What's the bridge looking?
The bridge looking thing. Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank
right
you.
there.
That. So, okay, so the sidewalk could still go from there. Why would you need a sidewalk then if we close that off from there to a brick wall?
Sure, you could delete that segment from this road here to the north of Durango if that was the council's desire.
That could
to
just
delete
all
that.
be green space.
Yes, ma'am.
And passive green space rather than stick a sidewalk.
Yes, ma'am. And then the sidewalk could continue along this down to the road to get to the park and the school.
Okay, because that's the only entrance way would be then at the bridge-like thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. Councilman Campbell?
Christopher, if we extend the sidewalk from the roadway in the center down, you've got 2 squares of green. What is that? Are those little parks? Or is that, I don't know what the green is.
It's open space. I don't believe it's programmed for anything particular. It's just
open space.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do we have sidewalks throughout this subdivision now?
Yes, ma'am. There will be when it's built. Yes, ma'am. That's
So
correct.
they're putting in all their sidewalks.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
this would just be another sidewalk to get the residents that are in the northwest and northeast down to the open area.
It could capture the residents in this area here.
Right.
And this area here.
Okay.
If this segment was required to be built, it would be constructed to allow them to go down to the school.
All right.
park.
And when this was agreed to, this idea came from the residents of Sweetwater at that time.
Originally, there was a street that was proposed here.
And, oh, yes. And instead of the street, they said that it was okay to do a walkway.
Instead of the street, the compromise was the pedestrian opening in the perimeter wall here and the sidewalk all the way through.
Okay, I get it. All right, that's all. Okay, thank you very much. No, we're not saying it was you. It was someone who lived in Sweetwater.
Excuse me, audience, you had your chance to speak, and so please, people from the audience, do not speak up and shout out. Let the council work through this, okay? Were you finished, Councilman Campbell?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so anybody else on? All right, I'm going to.
I have
Councilman Holman?
Well, I kind of have a question. Durango at that point, so one development is on one side of the street and one development is on the other side of the street, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And each of those developments have a perimeter wall or no?
Sin Lomas, located on the east, has a perimeter wall all the way around like this. And then La Jolla Vista, which is here, would have a perimeter. The way it is currently, would have a perimeter wall along here. It would open up in here to allow the pedestrian connection, and then it would continue this way as well.
And how wide is Durango at that point?
Where's engineering?
Does staff have a comment on that?
The right-of-way
Question?
is 60 feet, and it is a 2-lane road.
Thank you.
Okay. The thought that came to my mind, because we have this trouble in our neighborhood, if people are determined to get from one side to the other side to have a path, they will find it, whether it is built in or not. They will remove blocks from walls and they will do whatever needs to be done. So that whether, throw their bike over the remaining wall and jump across. And we happen to have that kind of a challenge in my neighborhood. I'm always watching for blocks to start coming down because eventually it gets down to the ground. So those are kind of the thoughts that come to my mind. If you don't provide it in some kind of structured way, they will make it in an unstructured way. One afternoon, I counted 33 people that had gone down my street to get over the wall. And some were kids and some were not kids. Those are the thoughts to come to my mind, because there is a natural break then between the two subdivisions, but the concern is that people would have an opening to get to Durango, pedestrians would have an opening to get to Durango, and then perhaps come and get into the Sweetwater. Is that, am I understanding that correctly? You can't talk to me, but is that, you can nod your head. Thank you. I'm just trying to understand the.
I think we all are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else on this side before I go? Councilman Osborne?
So originally with this plan of this open pathway to get onto Durango, on the other side of the perimeter wall was there to be a sidewalk lining the entire section there on Durango Street on the applicant side of, obviously not on Sweetwater Estates, but on the applicant side, was there going to be a sidewalk?
On the south side of the right-of-way of Durango, there's pedestrian improvements and landscaping and an articulated subdivision perimeter wall. So there's a whole package, if you will, of improvements that's proposed on the south side of Durango Street.
So I guess the question I have is that, especially after we just had a conversation as a city on sidewalk maintenance and what it costs, if you don't have, if one of these options is removing a section of, whether it's the entire sidewalk on the interior in the park area, or if it's just removing the sidewalk that is, and I don't have my, I don't know, is that south of that little roadway that we just talked about, the vice mayor had pointed out, the other side of, right, the bridge looking thing. So, right. No, the other side, north. Christopher. North. Okay, north. So if there was no sidewalk there, and there was, why would you have a sidewalk then on the other side of the perimeter wall? I mean, landscaping's fine, but why would you have a sidewalk? I mean, at the end of the day, just the sheer, I can understand why people get aggravated when they see a long list that was presented on how we were to do an amendment and what it would cost when nothing's even been built. And it's amazing that we would have that kind of price tag and this kind of process to get through when even the applicant himself had said, who's trying to find an obvious answer to this, would say, can this not be, some kind of administrative tear sheet that goes with the project? I just don't understand how it can be this cumbersome to say, don't put a gate. And then in the fact that the applicant's not going to have to put in all this sidewalk, that's less of a cost. So it just seems like there's an answer here, and it shouldn't be this difficult. So I will leave it at that and hear what the rest of the council members have to say.
Councilman Bazzillo.
I'm going to follow right up with Councilmember Osborne because I was kind of going in that same direction, and I'm going to ask a question of the attorney. What's the quickest, cheapest way to get this done? I mean, is it going to take 3 months because of a process, or is there something that council can do to speed this up? There is nothing?
Members of council, the issue you have is you have a zoning stipulation, and to change zoning stipulations under Arizona law, you have to go through a public zoning process.
Could you speak up? I want the people to know that the Arizona law.
Yeah, under Arizona law, if you're going to change a zoning action, which is you've rezoned a piece of property, you've attached stipulations, those have gone through a public process, had public input, had public hearings. If you're going to remove those stipulations, it's a rezoning. And Arizona law stipulates the steps you have to go through in doing a rezoning. What's also complicating this matter is this stipulation is also contained in the development agreement. This is one of the West Goodyear development agreements, which we've amended numerous times. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to go back, work with the developer and their attorney to remove references in the development agreement to this stipulation, where it lies throughout that document, however council directs. And then we'll need to bring back the zoning after the public process, as Mr. Baker outlined to you, and then bring back an amendment to the development agreement. So this one, it seems like it should be simple, but because of Arizona law, because it is a zoning stipulation and it's in the development agreements, It's not an easy matter.
And it delays the developer how long?
I would defer to Mr. Baker, but I mean, they're
Could you
more or
put
less
that-
done with this development as far as planning and engineering and entitlements. So it is a process.
Yes.
We-
I asked the question how long it delays the development.
Mayor, Council, we anticipate that the revisions to the development agreement and the zoning change to the PAD would take about 3 to 4 months or so. The question about the administrative, sort of the slip sheeting, if you will, we can accommodate that in engineering plan review, but not with the zoning as the city attorney advised you. So I hope that's clear.
Councilman Pizzillo?
The only reason why I ask is, today, I don't know what the distance is from that street to the school. I don't see a whole lot of kids walking there. I know maybe the intent initially was to create that so that the kids could walk to school. I don't see that happening. I really don't. The distance. The green space is nice. I don't know what the thought process was at the time to open it up. But to me, you would think there'd be an easy way to fix this. And I guess my question is, can they move forward with the development and run parallel tracks with the zoning issues so it doesn't stop the developer from moving forward? Is that a legal option?
Mr. Baker, I'm not sure where they're at as far as their current.
You might as well just stay up there. You know
Yeah.
that. You can take a seat up there.
Getting my steps in. Phase 1 of La Jolla Vista is this area here, and it's slated to go first. I'll defer to the legal representative of La Jolla Vista on what their construction timing is. At this point, I'm not entirely aware of that, but this would be phase 1. So if the council directed staff to change the PAD and the development agreement, we would be working through that process, and if that overlapped some, we would have to figure out a way in order to do that.
So you're saying if they wanted to start the construction, we could work with that?
Yeah, if the developer wanted to commence construction when phase 1 here, yes, ma'am, that we would find a path forward to not hold them up over a sidewalk if the council gives us that direction tonight.
Okay. Councilman, wait a minute, I'm going to go here. Vice Mayor?
I just have a question to follow up on Councilman Pizzillo's question. I have it far away. What is the distance from up at Durango Street to the school site, just so we know?
If you bear with me a second.
Is that Katie?
Looks farther. Yeah, I was just trying to figure it from here.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor, Council, I'm colorblind, so if I get my colors mixed up, I apologize in advance. So apparently there's either a red or a green line that goes this way.
Green.
That's green.
Green.
That's green.
That goes to the school site. And this distance, this linear footage is approximately 4,500 linear feet.
So less than a mile.
Just under a mile. If this was closed off on Durango and there students, children, whoever wanted to walk to either to the school to here, they would take, this would be the red line, down this way and then back through, out on Citrus and back through. That is approximately 7,000 linear feet. So that's, a mile, over a mile.
That's considerable.
The net difference is it adds about another 3,000 linear feet.
Councilman
or
Rowland?
more than half a mile.
Okay, we're assuming students that are taking that where are those students coming from? Are they theoretically coming from Sweetwater Estates across the street?
The last one you had up with the red line, I know you can't see that, but that's it.
Yes, he had it.
So that's measuring from this point right here.
Yeah, they would be coming outside of this development.
Yeah, this is Sweetwater, yes, ma'am. So if they were coming from Sweetwater, and that's not taken into an account, I mean, if there was somebody that lived in this house that wanted to walk to school, that's
exactly. So it seems to me that this walkway was not so much for the people in this community as it was for people outside of the perimeter coming down through the southern community to get to school, to make a clearer, safer path.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And if I can, Mayor, if I may also point out, it's just not the school. This is the school, but this is also a park site.
Right.
That would be open as
but
well.
It's to help other people outside of the perimeter have a shorter, safer way.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions here? Yes, Councilman Stipp.
All right. So a couple of statements were made earlier by a couple of the residents that, why are we still here? This is the public process. This is why we're still here. This is your process. Unfortunately, Sweetwater Estates is in the county, but we still have the ability. You still have the ability to come forward and voice your opinion and help us to help you. So I understand you're frustrated by why are we still here. This seems like a very simple answer, but hopefully that was answered for you tonight, that this is not the answer is simple, but getting there is not simple. The road to Abilene, if you've heard that story, in this case takes us all the way up to New York and then back down to Texas. So we'll get there eventually. But that's why we're still here. We heard a lot tonight about, we don't want kids from this neighborhood or the other neighborhood coming into where we're at. We're never going to prevent that. Unless you put up block walls, we're never going to prevent the kids from getting there. Now, having said all of that, there, in my mind, and I'm one of the people that signed to bring this thing forward, there is still no reason that we have access to Durango Street from this subdivision. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we direct staff to remove the public access and permanently block the connection to Durango Street, maintaining the sidewalk south of the crossroad that is in there through the green space, because the streets aren't labeled on here. So we don't need a sidewalk going north. We need a sidewalk going south from that crossroad. And we do that as expeditiously as possible within the laws of the state and the city and the county and the nation and the international fund, whoever, that we do this as quickly as we can, and that we also allow staff to concurrently allow the development to move forward without hesitation or delay. That's my motion.
The first section here that they...
Whatever that is that they...
It is. It's over here.
I don't want to hamper the developer because we're changing our mind, but we need to get this done. So I have a motion. I'll clean it up if we need to, but...
I'll second it.
Well, wait a minute. I think there was some more discussion still to go.
There was more discussion. Yeah, I wanted to talk about it, but there's a motion on the floor now.
Second.
So
Now we can talk, Wally, we can still talk about it in the discussion. I wanted to put something on the table.
Yeah, well, next time just kind of let the chair know so I can recognize these people, because now we've done injustice to her. So
no, she can still talk.
All right, okay, I hear you. So let's hear a motion and a second.
It's on the floor.
And I said it.
I didn't hear it. So Councilman Stipp made the motion, and who seconded it?
I second.
Got it.
Council Osborne second. Open for council discussion. Council Campbell?
My discussion was, Christopher, do you mind coming back up? Because I thought we were going to have more discussion before, and she would call for another motion. I just want to be sure that no matter what we do, that we're not reopening this development agreement or their plans or anything for the developer in any way, shape, or form other than telling them they have to build a solid wall and then half of that sidewalk that's already there. I don't want any additional expense on the developer because of this. And I also wanted to say, while this city, every time a developer comes before us, we say we want connectivity, we want to connect, we want to connect. Well, we're not going to be able to connect all of our communities throughout Goodyear. As much as we would love to do that, we're not going to be able to do it. And this is a prime example of not being able to do it. So what do we need to do in the motion, or do we just direct staff? I mean, this is such a long process, and I just want to make sure that we're doing it all very carefully and thoughtfully, and we're only doing one thing, and that's just removing the stipulation that there will be a walkway through that wall and a sidewalk being built. But I don't want anything else done with his plans or...
So Mayor, Councilman, or Councilperson Campbell, the scope of the revisions would only be limited to closing off the pedestrian opening on Durango, and in accordance with that's the direction you give us, with Council Member Stipp's direction, the sidewalk from this road here north to the wall.
And you could do it with a tear sheet so they don't have to apply for anything additional that's going to cost them money?
As far as the revisions to the engineering documents and plan sheets, we can do that as slip sheets, if you will. But we still, as Mr. Massey indicated, have to go through that PAD process and development agreement revision
We
process.
know that there'll be those costs, but we didn't. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Pizzillo?
For the general public, and correct me if I'm wrong on the attorney, part of the issue is because of our state legislature and the laws that have been passed, there's certain processes and things that have to follow as a result of the zoning and the stipulations, that it's just a matter of, well, we're going to cut this out, and they don't give you a whole lot of options to quickly fix this. So just to let the public know that our hands are tied on some of these because of the state laws and what we can do once things are passed to change it. And be honest with you, I would have preferred that there was some type of option they would have put for any type of these situations within state statutes, but what I'm hearing is that isn't one of them. So, but what I would like to see is that we can run parallel courses, because to be honest with you, and I don't know what the thought was, I assume the school district was looking for an easy way down there, and I'm sure some students will walk that distance, but I know a lot of them won't. It's a mile or close to a mile to get to that school site. I personally, and I could be wrong, but I don't see the value in having that opening in there. I really don't. So I'm going to tend to go with Stipp, but I would like a parallel system or parallel approach so you don't slow the developer out. It's not his fault of what we're changing on there, because he did his due process. He had his zone. He had the development agreement. All those things were done. And now we're saying this little 4-foot section or whatever it is, now make it a whole block wall. But as a result of that, there's all these hoops that have to be dropped through because of state statutes and et cetera, which to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if the state's driving it, the state's driving it. So with that, that's my 2 cents. I'm kind of moving forward.
Councilman Osborne.
Thank you. One last question, and I am one that is constantly asking for that connectivity in those pathways. And, it was pointed out the last time we discussed this that that's the only opening in all of these quadrants of homes. And I don't know how that happened way back when, but it did. What I still is not answered in my mind, though, is there value or is there reason to have that sidewalk all the way down Durango? If that's a less of a burden and an expense on the applicant, is it a sidewalk to nowhere? Is there a point? So because I can't really tell by this map, it looks like it's a dead end road. So I don't know if there's value to a sidewalk there. And so I would say that now, and I'm assuming we would need to have that in this discussion. So that's why I bring it up.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. Durango Street does end right here. It is not a through street. There is a wall there.
So they're
just saying for him to build.
No, but I'm saying no, but along all the way around here, or right now, it's supposed to be sidewalk, correct? I mean, you can't see where I'm. All along Durango, they're supposed to be outside of the perimeter wall. Outside of the perimeter wall, there's sidewalk. Is there a point to having that sidewalk is what I'm saying.
I think Joe Schmidt has a little additional information. Joe, could you come forward?
I mean, if it's a sidewalk to nowhere, what's the point?
Well, but it may connect to other sidewalks.
That's why I'm asking if it's what's the
Ladies,
value.
ladies,
Mayor
listen,
and
here we go.
Council, the way the approval was structured and the development agreement was written is that they would not put the improvements in. They would just make an in lieu payment until the balance of Durango was improved on the others, when there were plans to improve the other side. So there would only be the landscaping strip and no sidewalk or curb and gutter installed at this time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We haven't talked about the cost, so we need to tell the public that's listening what this is going to cost us. Is it still going to cost us $10,675? So I'd like that cleared. And then secondly, I would like to ask the neighborhood to promote friendliness and acceptance. And I know children can be devils and get into trouble. You are in the county. You're under the county regulations. That, you know, you pay the taxes there. You don't pay the taxes here. So this Goodyear has an average age of 35.3. I think the 3 is funny. But the fact is, they're small children, and they're not going to go away. These are young families that are going to be buying this neighborhood. And so I just appeal to you, and I know some of you are my age, so I understand when you get to a certain age, your tolerance level is not very big for small children. Please, I'm talking, and you do not have permission in my courtroom to do that, in my chamber. So you remember that when you come here. You're recognized, you speak up, and you sit down. Thank you. But I just want you to know that there is a thing called good neighbors. And if the children are doing something wrong to the point where you have to call our public safety, they will come. They will take care of it. You do not need to let these kids get away with things that are damaging your property. But you live on the borders of Goodyear, and we are not going to change our ways about welcoming people to our city, families, activities. That is us. We have a culture here, and the culture is we share and talk and help each other. We volunteer in communities. So it's the whole ambiance of what we have, the whole culture. So I just want you to know, when I hear this discussion today, I was alarmed at the anger and the distaste and the not understanding the other side. And I understand it's not fair if they destroy part of your property or they have to be taken care of. But there are other ways that the possibility that you could be neighborly, try to go to another neighborhood, go to the school, talk to them, appeal to where the kids are walking. There is a process. So that part somewhat disappoints me. But I think you're right, Bill. I think we need to take care of this. So are you all ready to vote for this?
We're ready.
And do we know exactly what that motion was? Do you have it down? That's what I was worried about. So,
They're waiting for the recording.
okay, could you please, the lawyer, please repeat that motion?
And it's to instigate the rezoning process and amendment to the development agreement process to delete the pedestrian access, preserving sidewalks south of the street alignment, consistent with all applicable laws.
Without slowing down.
Slowing up the developer. That's how I
or
understood the
them
motion.
incurring additional costs.
Well, they're going to have administrative costs, just for the record.
All right? Everybody understand?
Do we need to put in that we're not opening discussion for any other part of their plan?
I believe it was implied that it was limited
implied.
just to this.
It's implied to
Okay.
this.
All right. Okay.
All right, counsel.
If I have to, but
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
All right, we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. And thank you all for coming tonight and expressing your views. Thank you. Thank you. Back at you. All right, 7.2 is to consider ratifying the 2017 spring training ticket prices. Parks and Recreation Director Nathan Torres to present. Nathan?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize some folks that are joining us here this evening. First, by way of telephone, we have Bruce Kessman, who's calling in from the East Coast on vacation, visiting his family. So if needed, we'll be making a call to the bullpen to call on Bruce, our general manager. Also in attendance this evening, we have Chuck Heeman. He's our ballpark ticket sales coordinator. And then, of course, we're also joined by Ryan Lance, the Arizona Manager of Operations for the Cleveland Indians, as well as Mike Savarino, his counterpart for the Cincinnati Reds. So, Mayor and Council, this evening we're here to seek ratification of the 2017 spring training prices. Each year, the city, along with staff from the Indians and the Reds, we evaluate ticket sales and collectively develop strategies to maximize revenue. While maximizing revenue is in the best interest of all parties, as it ultimately assists us with reducing the general fund subsidy, we are very aware of the balance that must be achieved, and this year is no exception. This balance includes considering residents. What types of offers can we offer residents to minimize the impact on them? In addition, how can we use ticket sales as a tool to raise additional dollars to fund asset replacement? The thought here is having baseball fans participate at a higher level in helping us raise funds for that replacement, and thus reducing the impact on the general fund. How do we consider the needs of the teams who continue to be great stewards of the community through their involvement and philanthropic support, and whose operations, both year-round and during spring training, contribute to the $100 million that's generated annually in economic impact. And that's per the last Cactus League study that was commissioned by the Cactus League. And lastly, how can we accomplish all of these while maintaining a competitive pricing advantage? This is the balance that was considered this year in developing the 2017 spring training ticket prices. And this evening, I hope to demonstrate how this balance was achieved. This evening, we'll discuss the pricing history. We will look at staff analysis, fiscal analysis, and then, of course, staff's recommendation. So the 2017, let's see here, let's just a pricing history. Our initial pricing was established in 2009. We brought that before council for formal action in 2009 with the primary interest of being competitively placed within the Cactus League. This pricing remained intact until 2014. At that time, prices were increased by $2 across the board, with the exception of our lower tiered seating areas, which is the berm and the outfield reserve prices, our outfield reserve seating areas. In 2016, we added an additional $1 for fans that were walking up and purchasing tickets on the day of game. Day of game increases, our day of game purchases make up about 25% of our overall ticket sales. And it's also important to note that overall ticket sales purchases at the ballpark, 15% are attributed to Goodyear residents. 85% are coming from outside the area. In 2017, the 2017 pricing model includes an additional $2 across the board increase, with the exception of the outfield berm area. It's important to note that we recognize that this is the most price sensitive ticket for our patrons, and it's also important to note that this pricing point has been maintained since the inaugural season. So that has not changed and will not change with the 2017 pricing. In addition to the $2 base price increase, the 27 pricing also includes a $1 increase for all tickets purchased on the day of game. Again, that's about 25% of ticket purchasers. So now I'd like to address the rather large elephant in the room. While we did bring the inaugural season ticket pricing before council for formal action in 2009, subsequent increases were adjusted administratively in 2014 and 2016, and again for 2017. They were adjusted administratively, and we communicated that to council via formal yellow paper. Upon receiving this year's yellow paper on the 2017 prices, a council member inquired as to why these prices weren't coming before council for formal action. And in looking into this further, it was determined that in order to be in line with our best practices for our city, that is indeed correct, that we should bring this forward for formal action, which is why we're here tonight seeking ratification. I'd like to affirmatively state that I understand that this is not an ideal situation to be seeking ratification of ticket prices as opposed to approving prices in advance. And I can commit to you that in the future, these will be done formally through council action in advance. Some of the analysis that we went through, we looked at attendee survey data, ticket sales trends, and then of course, where we're positioned in the Cactus League. This chart here depicts a history of our ticket sales. The blue represents our overall ticket sales per year, and then the red indicates what our average sales are. And what we're hoping to demonstrate through this chart is basically, if you look at 2014, that's when we experienced our first increase, you do see a dip in total attendance. However, that was due because we actually had less games. If you look at our average attendance actually went up a bit. And then likewise, if you look at 2016, when we implemented the $1 day of game increase, our average attendance saw an increase as well as our overall attendance. And then this evening, I'm happy to report that with the 2017 prices in place now, to date, I'm happy to report that we are 65% ahead of sales compared to last year at this same time. And so what this data suggests is that the modest increases over the past years have not had a very negative impact at all on our attendance. In addition to this trend analysis, our fans also reinforce this. So every year we conduct fan surveys in park, and we look specifically at several items, but one of the items is what's influencing purchasing. And the fans are telling us that the primary reason for purchasing a ticket is to visit or to watch the Indians and the Reds play, 40%. The next major influence is location at 25%, visitation with friend, relative, spending time with someone, 20%. The lowest influential factor on attending a game at Goodyear Ballpark is price, and that's 6%. This data confirms and is in line with the purchasing trends that price is not a major influencing factor to purchasing tickets at Goodyear Ballpark. What we're going to do now is just take a quick snapshot of several different seating areas within the ballpark. And basically, how do we stack up? We stack up very well. In fact, we're the most affordable, and by far, we're the most affordable ticket in the Cactus League. The red indicates the base ticket price. The green indicates any day of game charges. And then the purple indicates premium or dynamic charges. All the facilities in the Cactus League have different approaches to their pricing strategy. And I can sit here for 2 days and get through half of them in detail with you. But basically, they range from day of game charges to premium games to non-premium games. Some have actually implemented dynamic pricing, which that works a lot like airline prices. So the price of the ticket depends on when you purchase it. You'll get one price. If you're purchasing closer to the game, based on supply and demand, that price can go way up, and that's what you're seeing there on these charts. And so we feel like we're positioned appropriately. It's also important to note that you notice the first column there, kids pricing. Goodyear Ballpark is the only facility in the Cactus League that offers child price tickets. These are half-price child tickets, and they're good for every game. So we're proud to say that we're the only facility in the Cactus League doing something innovative, kids pricing for families. In addition, when the Indians and Reds play each other, you can also grab a ticket for $1. So that's our Ohio Days promotion. When the Indians and Reds play each other, come out to the ballpark for $4. This is another seating section. This is our outfield seating area. I'm going to try to give you an idea of where this is at. It worked. So our outfield seating area consists of sections 103, 104, 105, 119, 120, and 121. And you can see here, again, Goodyear is the only facility in the Cactus League that's offering child price tickets. In this location, they're half-price child tickets. And then our range, of course, is very competitive, if not the lowest in the league. And again, the last section, our infield box area. This is basically 106, 107, 8, 9, 10, all the way around to 118. Uh-oh. I knew I should have quit while I was ahead. And so here in the infield box seating areas, you can see we're very competitive, if not the lowest throughout the league. Some of the principles that we considered, number one, we just talked about remaining our competitive advantage in the league. We want to be the most affordable. We think that this pricing does that for us. In addition, we want to maintain family-friendly pricing. Again, the only facility to offer half-price child tickets. We have family fun packs, the Ohio Days offer, and also exclusive offers for residents. Again, 15% of our ticket purchasers are residents. We recognize that. And so we have special offers that are delivered via the In Focus magazine that target residents, and they're buy one, get one offers, and also $5 off coupons. So it's our way of helping the residents absorb the minimal price increase. And then, of course, maintaining a variety of discounts. So we're the only facility that offers free military tickets for active duty military personnel. Free tickets for active military personnel. We also offer half-price child tickets for veterans. And then if they're purchasing tickets for their family, they can get those at discounted rates as well. Maintaining our season ticket base, that's important to us. That makes about 12% of our overall ticket sales profile. And current season ticket holders actually will not experience this increase for 2017 this year. So I'd like to spend some time discussing the capital replacement fund for the ballpark and how it will positively be impacted by the 2017 pricing. One of the provisions in the team use agreements was to establish an asset replacement program and fund for the ballpark and training complexes. The primary purpose was to ensure the ballpark and related facilities were maintained and to ensure protection of the city's investment. The original funding, up to $250,000 per year, was generated from facility fees. These facility fees are embedded into the price of the ticket, so they're not in addition to the price, they are embedded into the cost of the ticket. Currently, they are $2 on every ticket sold, and then for our premium areas, there's an additional $5 that come together to help fund the capital replacement fund. Facility fees are a innovative means for the attendees to participate in the capital replacement of the assets in the facility. And it's working. If you visit the facility, you can see that it's maintained and still appears very, very new. However, although the fund has held a positive balance and allowed scheduled replacement of assets, it has always been projected to move into the red in fiscal year 19, and the deficit growing to $13 million by fiscal year 30. Last year, Mayor and Council, last year, you began to appropriate an additional $650,000 to the fund to bring the total annual funding up to $900,000 annually. And this is part of your approach with asset planning. The blue line on the graph reflects the fund balance per the original $250 per year funding. The gray line reflects the planned expenses associated with the scheduled replacement of assets. And the yellow line reflects the fund balance with the additional $650 allocated per the asset management program for the city. It is important to note that this funding is a 10-year program, which is why the line drops off so quickly in FY 2028. As the plan moves forward, this appropriation will continue to close the gap in the later years of the team use agreement. So why is this discussion so relevant now? Asset replacement is not only a priority for the city, but also for our teams. And as such, the teams, as part of this increase, have agreed to allocate an additional $1 for every ticket sold to fund asset replacement for the ballpark and related facilities. So what does this mean? This means that this will generate approximately an additional $125,000 for asset replacement, growing to $1.5 million over the term of the team use agreements. That's $125,000 that the general fund will be impacted in a positive way. 1.5 over the remaining years of the agreement that won't need general fund subsidy for up to that amount. It's a way of making of having those attending the games help fund these replacements, and thus reducing the impact to the general fund. And again, approximately 85% of those attending games are from outside of the area. So what does it look like? If we take 2016 performance numbers and apply the 2017 increases, we will generate approximately $2.6 million. The city share, based on these numbers, will increase approximately 28%. 28%. And that's largely due to the additional allocation of the $1 per every ticket sold for asset replacement. The Indians and the Reds will see modest increases of 4% and 6%. What I like about this slide is oftentimes you hear of ticket prices and per the team use agreements being ticket revenues are 80% team revenue, 20% city. And that's just really not the case. When you take all of the items that are built into the ticket price, city tax, premium surcharge fees, plus our 20% share, the actual city share comes out to be 35%. Okay. And so in closing, and before I ask Ryan and Mike to come up and share their thoughts, I feel that we've maintained the balance this year. We have provisions for residents, both ticket purchasing savings as well as the reduction in the general fund, which also impacts our residents. We've considered asset replacement as part of this program. We've done it, and we're remaining competitive, if not the lowest in the league. And then, of course, we're able to accommodate the team needs. And so with that, let me have Mike and Ryan come up and ask if they'd like to share a few words. So Mike Savarino, Arizona Operations Manager for the Reds.
Welcome, Mike.
Mayor Lord, Vice Mayor Laurentano, council members, thank you very much for having me here tonight. Just a couple of quick thoughts. I know Nathan's done a great job covering everything, especially the details, the numbers, the process they go through. I just want to say a few words about Nathan and the team. You people have a lot of great people in place at Goodyear Ballpark. Nathan Torres, Bruce Kessman, and the rest of the team that you have in place there, they do a great job. They do tremendous work. They manage to balance the interests of the city with the two ball clubs. and while they're protecting and furthering the goals and the best intentions of the city. You really have an excellent group of people there, and they do fantastic work. Thanks for everything you do. Specifically, the ballpark personnel, in conjunction with the two teams, they've managed over the years to keep spring training ticket prices at a fair, reasonable, and affordable level in today's high-priced sports market. Yes, ticket prices have increased, and Nathan detailed that for you from time to time, but always remaining the best value in the Cactus League. And your team, your group, has always kept in mind the needs of the local residents, which is very important, and they've done a great job of that. I can't tell you all the different meetings we've had where they think, well, now wait a minute, we have to think about the local community and how it's going to impact them and what their position is going to be in this. You have in the past trusted the judgment of your folks who have charged with the duty of operating the ballpark and including establishing ticket prices. So I just ask you to believe in them again this time around in this situation and to ratify the 2017 spring training ticket prices. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Now, Ryan Lance, Arizona manager for the Indians.
Thanks, Nathan, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for just allowing me a minute or two to speak on the subject itself. Let me first start off by saying that the Cleveland Indians are fully supportive of this initiative that has been presented here to you tonight. Truth be told, we've been pushing, the Indians, I can say, have been pushing for something like this since the 2010 season. So we feel that we've been more than patient over the last several years for this opportunity. And quite frankly, there is no better time to enact something like this coming off the heels of an incredibly successful season like our team has put together this past year. What we're proposing here is very common throughout the sports industry and something that has been well thought out over the last several months from people who live and breathe this type of work each and every day, from Nathan, Bruce Kessman, Mike Severino, myself. Hopefully you can appreciate the level of detail that has been presented here to you tonight and the fact that both Mike and I are here as team representatives supporting this. Why do I think each of you should be supportive of this initiative? Well, there's a few reasons. First and foremost, it begins to address a major shortfall in our capital improvement fund that, as you know, will become a reality in the next 2 to 3 years. Goodyear Ballpark will be celebrating its 10th anniversary in 2018, and with that comes the need to address major maintenance repairs and equipment replacement as a result of the typical wear and tear that occurs at these type of venues over time. This is a proactive and a very creative approach that helps start to fill those coffers to ensure that Goodyear Ballpark is a premier destination and the crown jewel of the city for many years to come. Secondly, the financial impact of the city. As Nathan shared in one of his earlier slides, the Reds and Indians are seeing very little to any of this additional revenue generated from this initiative. In fact, the biggest revenue increase, 28% worth, will go back to the city to help provide additional funding for future capital improvement repairs. I don't know of too many professional sports teams out there that would agree to that type of revenue split, where they would receive 4 to 6% of that incremental revenue, while their landlord, in this case, the city, receives a lion's share of those funds. But personally, I feel that speaks volumes to the type of commitment that both the Indians and Reds have to this community and the true partnership we enjoy. Lastly, and I won't speak for the Reds, but the Cleveland Indians want this initiative more than anything. Personally, I don't even think this should have even come up for a council vote, but I will respect the process that is in place. I will say this, though, and I can say this without a shadow of a doubt. No other team gives back to a spring training home city like the Indians and Reds have done in the last 8+ years. The Cleveland Indians give and give and give while asking for little to anything in return. We've given financially to many local nonprofits that improve the quality of life for the citizens of Goodyear and many West Valley residents. Our staff and players have selflessly given of their time to the local Boys and Girls Club, St. Mary's Food Bank, Homeless Youth Connection, Southwest Valley YMCA, Goodyear Little League, and others. Now the shoe is on the other foot. The ball is in your court. The time has come for us to come to you on something that we feel will only better our operation for all the parties involved. My hope is that each of you will be there for us as the Indians and Reds have been here for this community since 2008. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan and Mike. And with that, Mayor and Council, I'm here for questions, and we ask for your consideration and ratification of the 2017 spring training ticket prices.
Thank you. We had speakers. Are there any other speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
All right. Then could I have a motion and a second to ratify the 2017 spring training ticket prices? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Loretano and the second by Councilman Campbell. Open for council discussion. I'm going to start on this side. Councilman Campbell.
Nathan, I'm all for the increase in prices. And Ryan, you're absolutely right. Now's the time to do it because of the Indians' performance in the World Series, which was just amazing. My husband and I do go around to a lot of the stadiums, as Nathan knows. I used to be a season ticket holder here, but now I just go and visit. But all of my friends that still come in from California, they'll come in and then they figure out what games they're going to go see, and they don't really know sometimes till the night before. So checking on an extra $1 for the game day, buying the ticket is just genius. That's wonderful because they're going to pay it anyway, because if they do it online, they're going to pay a surcharge to Ticketmasters, which is $4.50 a ticket, and that's certainly a lot more than our $1. But our pricing is fair, it's competitive. We don't always have to be the cheapest, but we're right in there. And I appreciate all of the promotions that you do for all of our families, for our service members, and for the fun time, because when you go to the stadium, it's not just to see a game. It's to see your friends, and I mean, where else can you go but to see your Rotary friends from Washington coming down the aisle to watch the Indians play? It's just hysterical. But thank you very much, and thank you for bringing this forward, and I am in support of it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I do as well support. I want to thank both the Indians and the Reds for their partnership and their what was said. Obviously, they give back so much to the community, and they have been great community partners. And I've always been pleased with how the ballpark has been run, and I think it's really important that we maintain it to those high-level standards. Although it still looks shiny and new, I'm not an expert on ballpark maintenance, which you and Bruce are, and obviously there's equipment and things that the naked eye isn't going to see that needs to be updated, and we need to make sure that we do keep it so that we can keep people coming, because if it gets run down, people aren't going to want to come. I have absolutely no problem whatsoever with this pricing structure. I think it is wonderful. It is a great deal. There is no other professional sports in the Valley that you can take if you've got 2 or 3 kids, or you want to take, your parents and take a couple generations and enjoy a day out. I mean, that is just fine, and we are still on the low end, and I think this will give us those money in our coffers to make sure that we can maintain the high quality. And when we look at the time, I think it is the right time. Not only do we have spectacular seasons, but it's really cold in Ohio right now, so there should be a lot of people coming out here for the winter, so I support it fully.
Councilman Bazzillo?
We've had a discussion before prior, and, well, first let me start with the good. I really appreciate the detail that you put in here and the pricing, and I'm always toyed between the pricing increase and the fact that the dollar is going towards the replacement. Because, I'm a big replacement fan as far as making sure we have money to address the needs. So I think that's a real important thing that you've negotiated on there. As far as the staff is concerned, I just recently had a tour that your staff had provided, did an excellent job. In fact, I got many kudos back from the Southwest Gas about the tour. They were so pleased that you took the time and the information, that even Ryan spoke about it at the event, that they were thrilled to death. And I don't know how many thank yous I got after that. And they thought it was very professional, and you did an excellent job. So I'm really pleased with what you do. My only disappointment, and as you had mentioned it, is that it's coming to us after as a ratification, and I know that's going to be fixed in the future. That was my initial reaction on, I really don't like voting on something if it's already done. You know what I mean? But I appreciate the detail that's in there and where the money's going through, and that fact that the berm is not going up in price. So that young families and the kid pricing, I enjoy all that. That is very important to me, and I want to make sure that our families still get a good buy out there at the ballpark. But again, you guys do an excellent excellent job. And again, I got many kudos from that, when they did the tour. So again, I appreciate the detail. I appreciate what you put in there. I appreciate where we are in the actual pricing scheme. So again, thank you.
Councilman Holman?
Well, I too want to thank you very much for providing this to us. And I also want to say to Mike and Lance, we do appreciate you here. We do appreciate what you have done in our community, in addition to what certainly it was above and beyond what you had to do. So we thank you very much for that. Our community does appreciate you, and we do want to continue this partnership for a very long time. And your work shows, Nathan, on this report to us, and I thank you for that. I do have a question, and I had to ask my baseball friend sitting next to me, what is premium pricing, and is there a reason why we haven't gotten into that?
Yeah, so premium pricing is one of the methodologies that some of the other facilities use. Let's say if there's a marquee game, in this case, we've already got one game sold out, and so it would be like taking a look at the marquee games and putting a premium price tag on those games versus non-premium.
I understand that, but is there a reason why we're not? It seems like all of our sister ballparks are doing it.
Yeah, we look at that each season, and we hope to get to the point where we can place premium on several games throughout the season. But right now our approach has been a real balanced approach to try and fill the ballpark and create that demand first. I'm not going to say we won't look at that or introduce that in the future, because it is a topic every year. But we have chosen not to do that because we want to keep building the demand for the ballpark.
Thank you.
Any other? Me. Councilman Osborne?
Thank you, Nathan and Mike and Ryan. I appreciate your statements and the detail and the presentation. I think was something that was great for us all to be refreshed on how everything's going. I believe in all of your professionalism and your expertise. Absolutely. There's no question in my mind about that. I am the elephant in the room, okay? I am the one that said, how come we are not voting on this? And it was not questioning expertise. It was questioning process. And it's only because we vote on everything else that we ever put a price tag to. So it was like, why wouldn't we be doing it on this also? So I wanted you to understand that it wasn't that kind of question. It was just, we vote on everything else. This seems like one of those things you would, put in front of us. So I appreciate, I was here in 2008 and was part of that vote and that partnership that this city has brought on with our teams. And I do know that partnership has contracts and things of saying, be charitable, but you go so far outside of what we had put together. I appreciate that. But it's exciting to see that what you showed us and where we stand in the valley. And you know what? This is the kind of information we want others to know about, that, you know what? You're getting the best price for the best place, and to see great teams and, all the awards that you've had over the years of being that family-friendly ballpark. I really, truly appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do share that with the entire team at the ballpark. Tremendous.
Yes.
Thank you.
Everybody's finished. I just want to thank you. The Cleveland Indians and the Cincinnati Reds, from the ownership down, have been great partners. This was a really edgy vote when we voted for having a stadium, and because it's always cost, and we knew that. And we knew we were getting them, or the Cactus Sea was growing because of Florida, and Florida was not keeping up their facilities. So we went into this vote eyes wide open, knowing that we had to do this. So I like this idea. I don't want to procrastinate. I do not want to leave it at when it's starting to deteriorate. I didn't find this difficult at all. The other thing, nor did the Ohioans. They didn't feel that way either, because some of the people talked about it, didn't even faze them a bit. They love their teams. They love coming down to the Sun. and having that nice vacation and still being able to see their favorite game. And on charity, you've given and given and given. And so I don't know if we've thanked you enough, but you've been really out in the public. We see you all the time at all the events. So you're doing a great job and great presentation, Nathan. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So we're going to vote on this. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The council would like to take a 10-minute break. So we're going to take a 10-minute break.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
10-minute break. Okay.
To bring forward a proposal for a phase 2 or continuation of an emissions reduction credit agreement between APS and the city of Goodyear. The basis of the agreement relates to emission reduction credits that APS receives for reducing particulate matter or PM10 within the area of the non-attainment area that encompasses the city of Goodyear. The original agreement was put together in the year 2000 and covered 16 miles of roadways within the city of Goodyear. We have since taken into our right-of-ways almost 10 of those, 10 miles of those roadways. There's a remaining 6.5 miles which is under consideration this evening as part of the phase 2 of the agreement that I'm bringing forward. It includes 5 miles of Riggs Road, as well as 1.5 miles of Bullard. For the first 15 years of the agreement between 2000 and 2015, APS provided funds for the city to pave those 16 miles of roadway. In addition, during that 15 years, the city of Goodyear maintained those roads. We performed things as crack seal, pothole, filling of potholes, edge treatments, shoulder grading, as well as a low water crossing or bridge repair that has come before council. During that time period, we also were continually monitoring those roadways to make sure that they met the threshold of a 30 PCI or pavement index, which simply tells us how the roadway is performing. We had the record-breaking storm in September of 2014. As a result of that storm, we did some additional maintenance in the area of Riggs Road and Bullard. However, at that same time, we also had the low-flow crossing or bridge crossing at Bullard completely needed complete renovation. We were not, within the engineering department, able to absorb that, and so we began discussions with APS at that time on how we could repair that. And then during these discussions, March 2015 came and went, which the original agreement expired. However, we continued to work with APS, and we came before council in August of 2015 with a cost-sharing agreement at that time to repair that bridge. It was $120,000, and it was a 50-50 split between the city of Goodyear and APS. In addition, the current fiscal year we are in, we also proposed a CIP in the amount of $160,000, of which $70,000 was to be used on survey and then the preparation of exhibits for the rights of way for this Riggs Road and Bullard Avenue. The other $90,000 was for additional repairs to bring it up to a standard where it was didn't have the potholes or some failing in some of the edges of the roadway. So now before you this evening is the agreement that basically continues this 15-year into a full 30-year agreement. but it brings in the second 15 years to be retroactive starting March of 2015 and extending until March of 2030. The properties that are located along Riggs Road and Bullard, the vast majority of those properties are owned by Newland and Madera. And there are approximately another 20 property owners that the city would need to work with to acquire the necessary right-of-way for these roadway improvements. So we are proposing that in the coming fiscal year, we will bring forward a CIP for $160,000 to acquire those right-of-ways. In addition, the following year, we are proposing to rehabilitate the road once it becomes our right-of-way to an acceptable rural standard. The cost of that is approximately $824,000 minus the $90,000 of repairs that we will be doing at the end of this fiscal year. The agreement has, again, a 50-50 split with APS. Their amount wouldn't be a not to exceed $457,000 for that first treatment, major treatment in the 18-19 fiscal year. The funds from the city would come from the pavement management program. And then we would continue for years 18 through 30. We would, again, monitor the roadway, make sure that it was achieving an acceptable PCI rating, as we would with any of our other roadways, because at that point it would become city right-of-way. We estimate, again, that in about 2025-26, based on our experience, that we will have to do another treatment to that roadway. Again, that is incorporated within this agreement that is before you this evening, that APS would share in that a 50-50 as well. So dependent on the type of a treatment we would need, we're estimating it between $520,000 and $900,000. So we have capped the APS participation at $450,000, but ultimately it would be based on whatever it was that we needed to install at that time. Certainly it would be less if it was a less severe treatment we needed. Again, this evening, we are recommending the approval of this agreement between APS and the City of Goodyear. I am available for questions, as well as Mr. Massey, who worked with us on this agreement, and APS. We also have two representatives from APS. We have Wendy Villa and Jeff Allman, who also worked with us on this agreement. And then Pete Tyke is in the audience as a major property owner, if there are any questions for him.
Thank you very much. Could I have a motion, a second, to approve the emission reduction credit maintenance cost sharing agreement between the City of Goodyear and Arizona Public Service Company?
So moved. Second.
I heard a motion from Councilman Stipp and a second from Vice Mayor Loretano. Open for council discussion. No discussion. Let's vote on it. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Nice presentation. 7.4 on the business is to consider the demolition contract, city-owned property at Cotton Lane and Indian School Road. Economic Development Director Michelle Lurie to present. Michelle?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I have an aerial here that I want to put up for you to look at. We are considering the city-owned property, the 40 acres on the southwest corner of Cotton Lane and Indian School Road, designated by that red rectangle. The city has owned this property for a little more than 10 years, and there's been a lot of development in the area. Of this area, it's just west of the 303. And there has been the expansion of Sub-Zero, as well as Dick's Sporting Goods and REI in that area. We also have a speculative building going up under construction on the east side of the 303. So Tonight, this is to prepare this property, city-owned property, for potential economic development opportunities. And I'd just like to go into the preparation that's been made on this property for this opportunity, for these opportunities that could come in the future. You'll see the buildings there right here. There's a lease on that property right now with a friend of the city, Arnett Duncan, and we have been working with him to terminate those leases, and having great discussions with him for the economic development opportunities for this property. The item that's before you first is to demolish the buildings, and of course we do have items in there. We actually have city-owned items in there and other things that we're going to be moving out. The demolition contract would actually be occurring in late January. We'll be starting in late January. So that is the recommendation for this evening on this item. I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? Could I then have a motion and a second to approve the funding for the demolition contract with Civil SBD in the amount of $180,000 regarding the city-owned property on the southwest corner of Cotton Lane and Indian School Road, authorize the city manager to sign the contract and to authorize the budget transfer to use the city manager's contingency fund for this item. Do I hear a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Excuse me, I had a motion from Councilman Bazzillo and a second from Councilman Holman. Open for council discussion. Councilman Bazzillo.
I just want to add something for the general public. Don't have a question except that we've covered this information, so I don't want them to think that we're just routinely going through this process. So it was thoroughly vetted, and no, I have no questions. But mainly, again, for the general public to let them know that we've had previous reviews of this. So,
Any other? All right, could we vote on it then? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. The next item is to consider, oh, you're staying right there, aren't you? And the next item is on business to consider approving an environmental and remediation contract for the city-owned property at Cotton Lane and Indian School. Economic Development Director Michelle Laurie to present.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, this is the second item relating to the same piece of property on the aerial there. And this is the second step that we need to prepare the property for potential opportunities, economic development opportunities, and that's the environmental assessment and any remediation that needs to take place. So this would be the secondary item to allow the contingency fund to be used for that purpose.
Thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? Then could I please have a motion and a second to approve the funding in the amount of $90,100 for the environmental survey and the remediation of the city-owned property at the southwest corner of Cotton Lane and Indian School Road, and authorize a budget transfer to use the city manager's contingency fund for this item. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion from Councilman Stipp and a second from Councilman Bazzillo. Open for council discussion. No discussion? Let's vote on it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. All right. We are going to go after this into our work session, but does anybody have any comments or accommodations, reports you want to give? Councilman Osborne?
Well, I would just like to wish our citizens a Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, and to also my council team. I would also like to give great apologies for this morning of not attending the ribbon cutting for our outstanding police admin station. Please forgive me, Chief. Chief, look me in the eye. Forgive me, okay? This is something that I know we've all been extremely excited about, and something that our citizens and our staff have wanted and our officers have wanted for, 15, 20 years. So I'm very appreciative, and I'm thankful that it occurred this morning. I'm just sorry that I wasn't there.
Well, we missed you, but we know this is a busy
It's a
season
tough
for
season.
you. Anybody else? All right. Anything of the city manager?
Mayor and Council, I'll be providing information in the weekly report this week, so I won't go into a lot of detail, but, Fill a Need program, a lot of interaction there, and so I know there's a lot to be said on it, but we actually had 38 families that received a benefit this past weekend, and so many people made this possible, and Councilmember Campbell, you were part of the committee as well, so thank you for that. But I'll give you a lot more detail in the weekly report since we're getting to be a late hour. And today we did estimate that about 200 people did attend the ribbon cutting for the police operations building. There was so much excitement there, and I know that was shared by council. So thank you. And I heard it, the support that the mayor and council give to our police officers is so greatly appreciated. I will be out of the office on Friday, so. And then next week, Dan Cotterman will be the acting city manager, so just wanted to recognize that. And then city offices will be closed on Monday, December 26th, as well as on January 2nd in observance of New Year's Day. So that's where we're at. That's what I have as far as a report. I didn't have any follow-up items from the council meeting per se. We did have some from the previous work session.
Thank you. Councilman Stipp, you said you had something?
Yeah, we just, I almost said unloaded. We are preparing to sell the properties out on the one Stunken farm. And we're moving into the police operations building. So it kind of prompted the question, where in your weekly or whatever, can we get an update on where we're at with the existing properties along Western Avenue and along Litchfield Road that we had talked once about doing some charitable work with, et cetera? Can we get an update on that in your weekly report?
Yes, actually we were looking at providing a yellow paper, and I'm going to look at Rob. We were looking at providing that. I know they're working on it, so if we can't make it this week, we'll definitely do it right after the holidays, if that's fine.
Okay.
With the mayor and council.
Great. Any other? Yeah, Councilman Campbell.
I have a couple of items for the city manager. I would like to add to Council Member Osborne's request about painting the canal rails, 144th Avenue, south of Merrill. The rails on both sides need to be painted. And also there is a street light out on Indian School west of Bullard on the southern side of the street. And you can only see it's out if you drive there at nighttime. It's one of the nighttime lights, the sodium
street light.
Street lights. Okay, thanks.
That's Indian School west of Bullard?
Yes, west of Bullard on the left-hand side of the road.
Okay. So it'd be on the south side of the street?
Yeah, south side of the street, sure.
Okay. And then 144th Avenue and Merrill, those were rails that you were talking about?
Is it different than what I was talking about?
Well, the Bullard, we need them. We need to have the rails painted on 144th Avenue, and we need to have them painted on Bullard as well. And you know what? I'm wondering if we paint them or if they're Roosevelt Irrigation District, because it's over their canal. So I don't know who paints them, to be honest.
Okay, and we can get with you after this and really look at it exactly where you're referencing.
Well, the one I'm talking about is 144th Avenue, south of Merrill, and it's just past our park, and it's on both sides of the street.
Okay, and there are rails right on the roadway.
Well, they're right beside it. I mean,
Okay.
When you drive by, you can see that the paint's chipped off.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, the next meeting will be a CFD meeting, a work session, a regular meeting held on January 9th, beginning at 5 p.m. And I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and we're going to go into the work session. But I, too, if anybody sneaks out of here for the next 5 minutes, wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So.